In today's episode of the Giraldo Show, we're going to be discussing two of the top Democratic candidates, Pete Buttigieg and Tom Steyer, dropping out of the race, as well as a little bit of Super Tuesday coming up on Tuesday. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you are listening to the Giraldo Show. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Giraldo Show. I am your host, Sebastian Giraldo. Let's go ahead and get into some quick side news before we get into the stories of the day. First of all, I do want to say that I am changing up the schedule of how I'm releasing the episodes. So before I was trying to release an episode once every weekday, Monday through Friday, and I realized, especially right now with so much schoolwork, that schedule isn't really going to work for me. So what I'm deciding to do is I'm going to release an episode Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So 3 times a week, I'm going to be releasing episodes, taking Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is going to be the new schedule for releasing episodes. So again, 3 days a week. It should be a whole lot easier for me, and I might release an episode on the Tuesday or Thursday if there's something important that happens. But for now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is going to be what the new schedule is going to be looking like for these episodes. But let's go ahead and get into the news stories of the day. So we've gone through a lot since the last time I released an episode. I think I released it on Tuesday of last week, and we've just gone through a lot of debates, primaries. We had the South Carolina primary that just went on. Joe Biden finally winning a primary, so that was important for him. I think he raised millions of dollars after he won the primary, so big boost for him. He's still not really in the race he's not, in terms of the polls, he's still not very high up. I'll go ahead and give you the numbers right now. Bernie Sanders almost at 30%, at 29.6%. Joe Biden at 18.8%. Michael Bloomberg in third place at 16.4%. Elizabeth Warren at 11.8%. Pete Buttigieg at 11%, but we'll see what happens to his votes once the polls update now that he's dropped out. Amy Klobuchar at 4%, Tom Steyer at 2.6%, and Tulsi Gabbard at 1.4%. So again, we've just seen Pete Buttigieg and Tom Steyer, so that's right there, that's 13.6% of the polling data that is going to be split up between the parties. It's going to be interesting to see who Pete Buttigieg's and Tom Steyer's voting camp, I guess you could say, will go for. But let's go ahead and get into each one of the candidates. So Tom Steyer was the one who dropped out first. He dropped out yesterday. As of the recording of today's episode on March 1st, on Sunday, he dropped out of the race on February 29th, so on Leap Day. So he announced on Saturday that Tom Steyer was dropping out of the presidential race after failing in another Democratic primary. According to the New York Times, quote, "The news came after Mr. Steyer, 62, failed to capitalize on his investment of millions of dollars in South Carolina, where he had pinned the hopes of his campaign. Despite spending more than $175 million on advertising throughout his campaign, Mr. Steyer did not earn any national pledge delegates in Iowa, New Hampshire, or Nevada, making South Carolina something of a make-or-break state for his continued viability." Steyer said, quote, "There's no question today that this campaign, we were disappointed with where we came out. I think we got 1 or 2 delegates from congressional districts, which I thank South Carolina for and the people. But I said if I didn't see a path to winning, that I would suspend my campaign. And honestly, I can't see a path where I can win the presidency. So, am I going to continue to work on every single one of these issues? Yes, of course I am. Because I never stopped. That's what I'm here for. And let me say, I kept trying to do this during the campaign. I'm a huge grassroots person," Steyer continued. "I, of course, will be supporting. I've said from the beginning, every Democrat is a million times better than Trump. Trump is a disaster, and we're in South Carolina. Lindsey Graham is a disaster. He's a disaster for the people." I think Lindsey Graham has a pretty good approval rate, so Tom Steyer, maybe check your facts next time. And let me say one last thing. When the Lord closes a door, he opens a window. I will find that window and crawl through it with you. I promise you that. So the interesting thing was that Tom Steyer, there was a video that released that kind of went viral of him dancing at a club or at some sort of event. It was pretty funny. I can't really show it to you because it's a podcast, but you'll probably have seen it by now. It's really funny. It's Tom Steyer just dancing to some rap music. Tom Steyer, he's gotten attacked for that. He's gotten attacked for spending a whole lot of money. Same thing as Bloomberg. The 2 billionaires that were in the race in Tom Steyer and Bloomberg, they both spent a significant amount of money to fund their campaign. And now that Steyer's out, He's going to get a lot of flack for doing his things wrong because he spent a lot of money to not really get anywhere. Josh Jordan, for example, tweeted, Tom Steyer spent $250 million on his campaign, and he might end up without a single delegate. Just imagine all the good he could have done with that money instead of burning it on the ultimate ego trip, which ended with America resoundingly rejecting him. And the tweet ends with, lol. So again, Tom Steyer, he's out. But really, that wasn't the most significant thing. I mean, he only had 2.6% of the votes, according to the polls. So it really wasn't that important that Tom Steyer dropped out. What was really surprising, though, was Pete Buttigieg dropping out today on March 1st. So I was not expecting this because considering he got second place in the Iowa, and in Iowa he had some delegates before this. So I was kind of surprised when he tweeted out, I believe he did, that he was suspending his campaign entirely. So Pete Buttigieg is dropping out of the race after a disastrous showing during the South Carolina primary. I will say that he did not have a good result in the South Carolina primary. If I pull up the numbers right now, I'll go ahead and give you who won and stuff. So Joe Biden had got 35 delegates, had 48.4% of the votes. Bernie Sanders had 13 delegates at 19.9%. Tom Steyer got third with 11.3%, but no delegates. Nobody got delegates below the Bernie Sanders. Pete Buttigieg got 0 delegates with 8.2% of the votes. And it just went on and on. Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard getting votes, even though Yang is out. Tulsi Gabbard is probably going to be close to being out at this point. So Biden did pretty well, winning the delegates, raising a lot of money. Pete Buttigieg didn't get any delegates, but he's still in the race. And then he just decides to drop out. So here's what the story says. Political reporter Carla Marinucci reported, Pete Buttigieg is to announce he is out of the presidential race. His staff now hearing the news and campaign call, sources tell us. Mr. Buttigieg was trounced in South Carolina's primary and earned just 2% of the vote from African Americans, according to early exit polling, according to the New York Times. What support he received came mostly from young black voters. He appeared to have barely any votes from African Americans who are 60 and older, according to the exit polling. Black voters decisively backed former Vice President Joe Biden, who won the primary. Senator Bernie Sanders and the hedge fund billionaire Tom Steyer drew low double-digit support from African Americans. The Associated Press and Fox News also confirmed that Buttigieg was dropping out of the race. Buttigieg has been scheduled to headline a rally in Dallas on Sunday night. The charter plane has been rerouted to South Bend, Indiana, where Buttigieg will announce that he is dropping out. A campaign aide told Fox News that Buttigieg wants to unite the party. Buttigieg has been going so far left that it's kind of hard to unite the party. He's going as far left as people like Elizabeth Warren and people like Bernie Sanders. Like, he's not a moderate anymore. In right now, he's not a moderate, I will say. Buttigieg has been widely criticized for his attacks on Christians and for his attacks on Vice President Mike Pence. Legal expert Josh Hammer summed up the way that many conservatives view Buttigieg, writing on Twitter, quote, Pete Buttigieg was, perhaps aside from Eric Swalwell, the single most insufferable member of the 2020 Democratic field. His smugness knew no bounds. His warping of Christian doctrine to suit his worldview was grotesque, and his incentive jihad against Mike Pence was simply gross. Buttigieg portrayed himself as a moderate Democrat, was anything but that as he felt far-left policy views on a whole range of issues. Buttigieg, for example, supporting a single-payer healthcare system. He doesn't really support the wall. He wants to limit guns for legal citizens. He's pro-abortion and pro-choice. He never put a limit on, at least when it's bad to have an abortion, at least put a late-term abortion limit on it. I mean, do what Tulsi Gabbard did at least, but no, he couldn't have done that. So Pete Buttigieg, I mean, he's out, so can't really say much. I think it's a good question to ask. Where will Pete Buttigieg's votes go? Tom Steyer's votes will probably split between Joe Biden and Michael Bloomberg, but Buttigieg is more of an interesting candidate because he claims he's a moderate, but he holds more far-left leaning. So will his supporters split between Bernie and Biden? Will they go all for Bernie? Will they go all for Biden? I think it's a very interesting question. I think we're going to really see that with Super Tuesday coming up. So Super Tuesday obviously is going to be March 3rd, where a whole bunch of states are going to be voting for the candidates for the Democratic primary and for the Republican primary, even though Trump's going to win the Republican primary, so we really shouldn't be worrying about that. What states are holding elections or voting rights for this Tuesday? So 15 jurisdictions are holding a primary event on Super Tuesday in 2020. Alabama, American Samoa, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, and Virginia. So 15 jurisdictions are going to be held. It's going to be a long day. I mean, obviously I'm going to be covering it on the Wednesday episode that I release, with both California and Texas, the two most populous states in the United States, holding their primary on Tuesday. Approximately 40% of the U.S. population has a primary event on March 3rd. In total, 1,344 pledged delegates, 34% of all pledged delegates, are at stake right on Tuesday. So again, what's going to happen? That's going to be really interesting. Bernie Sanders a little bit in the lead. Joe Biden had a huge win for South Carolina, or in South Carolina, I guess I should say. Will Joe Biden pull ahead? Will Bernie Sanders continue to lead? As it's looking like right now, I think Bernie Sanders might pull off the lead still, especially with California. I think he has more. California and Vermont, obviously, being the state he's from. So again, I mean, I can't wait for Super Tuesday to happen. It's going to be really great to see what happens. And all I can just say is Trump 2020. Hopefully we can win in a landslide and keep America great. And that's really going to be it for today's episode. I really thank everyone for tuning in. Again, apologies for the long wait. But once again, new schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule for episodes to try to keep things more balanced and give myself a little bit more time for my studies and for college. Because balancing those two things at the same time, podcast and studies, is a bit tough. So I thank everyone for really supporting me. And I'll go ahead and I'll see you on Wednesday. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you're listening to The Giraldo Show.